Oh my fucking God, you are not going to believe this shit. It's a week out from the election, and Biden drops a total fuck bomb that has everyone losing their minds.
Well, the timing is certainly interesting, for sure.
Okay, so let's cut the crap and dive right in.
It's good.
We're deep diving into a video by Mark Dice today, and oh boy.
Oh boy.
He breaks down this whole garbage comment from Biden, and it's wild.
It's definitely a situation that needs unpacking.
Big time. So to set the stage, this all starts at a Trump rally.
Okay.
A comedian is doing a set and makes a joke about Puerto Rico.
Right.
He calls it a floating island of garbage and is basically riffing on Biden's response to the hurricane there.
Oh, yeah. That was a mess.
Total mess.
Yeah.
So then Biden is speaking at a Latino event a few days later, and he seems to completely misinterpret the joke.
Uh-oh.
Goes on this whole tangent, stumbling over his words, and just...
What did he say?
He says, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Oh, my God.
I know, right? It's like he's not even trying to hide it anymore.
The context is important, though, because it sounds like he's responding to that comedian's joke.
True. But still, come on, man. You're the president of the United States.
It definitely wasn't his most presidential moment.
Okay, let's hear the actual clip, because you have to hear this to believe it.
Let's hear it.
By now, I'm sure you heard the news that Joe Biden gave us perhaps the greatest October surprise of any election, calling us all garbage. Biden suggests Trump supporters are garbage. He made the comments yesterday on a live stream with a Latino organization when he was denouncing the comments that the comedian made at the Madison Square Garden big MAGA extravaganza when he joked about the Biden administration unable to manage Puerto Rico and the landfills are full there because of all of the debris from the recent hurricanes and it's piling up. And so he called it a floating island of garbage. And so this was Joe Biden's response. He got confused. He thought maybe he himself was from Puerto Rico and then managed to say what he really feels about all of us.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware.
Puerto Rico, where I'm from. I mean, in my home state of Delaware.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
I fucking hate this shit. Every time I think he can't get any worse, he just proves me wrong.
Well, I mean, you have to admit the guy knows how to make headlines.
Yeah. Headlines he'll regret when he loses the election.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. It's still anyone's game at this point.
Okay, but back to the clip.
Right.
Here it is.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
This is Biden seemingly responding to that joke about Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Oh my fucking God.
Wow.
I know. Did you hear how he just fumbled over his words? It was painful.
You could practically see the gears turning in his head as he tried to come up with a response.
And then he just blurts out, garbage. It's like a train wreck in slow motion.
It definitely wasn't his finest hour.
Understatement of the century. There's a question was this a genuine gaffe or a calculated move? That's the million-dollar question right there.
Because the media is in full spin mode, trying to downplay it or reframe what he said.
I've seen a few articles claiming he was actually referring to the hateful rhetoric as garbage.
Which is total bullshit. If you listen to the clip, that's not what he said at all.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
It does seem like some outlets are trying to soften the blow a bit.
Let's cut the crap. He called Trump supporters garbage, point blank.
It was certainly a bold choice of words.
It's giving me serious deplorables slashback.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that.
Ah, yes. Hillary Clinton's infamous comment.
It's like they didn't learn anything from that debacle.
It's interesting how both incidents involve a presidential candidate labeling a large portion of the electorate in such a negative way.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
And just like with Hillary, this could backfire spectacularly.
It's definitely a gamble.
Especially with Latino voters who are already showing signs of shifting towards Trump.
There's polling data that suggests Biden's approval rating among Latinos has taken a hit recently.
And this garbage comment could alienate them further.
Especially in those key swing states where the Latino vote could make all the difference.
This is all happening while Kamala Harris is desperately trying to salvage her campaign.
It's been a rough few weeks for them.
Did you see that speech she gave? The whole vote for Kamala, vote for freedom thing?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. It's definitely an interesting message considering recent events.
Especially considering Steve Bannon was just released from prison.
After being jailed for refusing to comply with the subpoena from the Biden administration.
Talk about irony. It makes the whole freedom message ring a bit hollow, don't you think?
It certainly raises some questions about their commitment to free speech and dissent.
Bullshit. It's completely fucked up.
Well, from a strategic standpoint, it might not be the best message for her campaign right now.
Okay, but let's get back to Trump's reaction to the garbage comment, because you have to see this.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He's at a rally in Pennsylvania, and Marco Rubio breaks the news to him live.
Oh, man, this is going to be good.
Get ready for this.
All right, well,
Marco Rubio brings him the news.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage. Are garbage. He's talking about the Border Patrol. He's talking about nurses. He's talking about teachers. He's talking about everyday Americans who love their country and want to dream big again and support you, Mr. President. And I hope their campaign is about to apologize for what Joe Biden just said. We are not garbage. We are patriots who love America. And thank you for running, Mr. President.
Wait for it. This is fantastic.
Wow.
It is hard to believe. When I first saw the video, I thought maybe it was a deep fake. And so I had to double, triple check the facts just to make sure that it's real. And of course, it is.
So you have, remember Hillary, she said deplorable, and then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable, that didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know, you have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said.
He doesn't. He's a senile, crazy old man.
That wow is priceless. You can tell he's thinking, this is too good to be true.
It was a gift for the Trump campaign, for sure, especially just 1 week before the election.
And you know they're going to milk this for all it's worth.
They'd be stupid not to. It's a soundbite they can easily use to energize their base.
This incident plays right into the narrative they've been pushing, that Biden is out of touch, incompetent, and disrespectful towards a large portion of the American population.
And the timing couldn't be worse for the Democrats. Early voting is already underway, and this could sway undecided voters or even suppress turnout among those who were leaning towards Biden.
So we've got Biden calling Trump supporters garbage, Kamala desperately trying to rebrand herself as the freedom candidate, and Trump reveling in the chaos. Where the fuck do we go from here?
I think it's safe to say the next week is going to be a wild ride. We're in uncharted territory, and anything could happen. You know, this whole thing really makes you think about the state of our political discourse.
Dude, it's a complete dumpster fire. A fucking garbage fire, ironically enough.
It's definitely become more polarized and hostile over the past few years.
For sure. And this incident with Biden, it's like a perfect example of how language can be weaponized to divide us even further.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the words themselves, it's the intent behind them.
Right. You can tell Biden wasn't just making a slip of the tongue there.
There was some real anger in that statement.
Anger, resentment.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
It's like he's looking down on anyone who dares to support Trump.
It speaks to a deeper level of frustration that's simmering beneath the surface of our political landscape.
And when those emotions boil over, people tend to say things they wouldn't normally say.
That's true, but it's still not an excuse.
He's the fucking president of the United States.
Yeah.
He should know better than to go around calling half the country garbage.
There's a certain expectation of decorum and civility that comes with that office.
And let's be real, this isn't the first time Biden has put his foot in his mouth.
Oh, there's a long list of gaffes and off-color remarks that have followed him throughout his career.
Remember that whole "you ain't black" comment? Or when he told that factory worker he was full of shit?
Yeah, those were pretty bad.
It's like he can't help himself. He just keeps saying the quiet part out loud.
It's possible that he's simply not as careful with his words as he should be.
Or maybe he genuinely believes the things he's saying, which is even more concerning.
It's hard to say for sure, but either way, it's not a good look for him or his administration.
And it's definitely not helping Kamala's campaign.
Yeah.
She's already struggling to connect with voters, and now she's got this garbage baggage weighing her down.
It's tough to distance yourself from your running mate when they make such a public and controversial statement.
Speaking of Kamala, can we talk about her vote for Kamala, vote for freedom message? Because that is some next-level bullshit.
It's certainly an interesting choice of words given the current political climate.
The Biden administration has been criticized for its handling of the pandemic, its economic policies, and what some see as overreach in certain areas.
And let's not forget about Steve Bannon.
Right? They literally jailed him for refusing to cooperate with their investigation. And now Kamala's out here preaching about freedom. Give me a break.
It does seem a bit hypocritical.
Hypocritical. It's completely fucked up.
Well, from a strategic standpoint, it might not be the best message for her campaign right now.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if this whole garbage thing was a calculated move? What if they're intentionally trying to stir up controversy to energize their base?
It's a risky strategy, but not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
But is it really a winning strategy?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a gamble, and it remains to be seen whether it will pay off.
One thing's for sure, this election is going to be a nail-biter. And this garbage fiasco has just added another layer of uncertainty to the mix.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even in the final days of a campaign, anything can happen.
So what should we be watching for in the next week?
Tonight, there's new reporting about Joe Biden and a moment that explains why things are the way that they are. Sources tell CNN that the president is in do no harm mode, stapling himself to the bench at the direction of the Harris campaign. Well, even from the White House, he may have done some pretty significant harm in the final week of the campaign. Just listen to this, and you be the judge.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is their supporters.
Particularly in those key swing states. We also need to watch for any major shifts in momentum, whether it's a surge in enthusiasm for one candidate or a drop in support for the other.
Don't forget about the ground game, too. Getting people out to vote is going to be huge.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in those tight races where every single vote could make the difference.
So we've talked about the whole garbage comment, Kamala's freedom thing, and how this could all impact the election.
Right.
But what does it all mean for the country as a whole? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it really highlights the deep divisions that we're seeing in society. It's tough to even have a conversation about politics these days without it turning into a shouting match.
It's fucking depressing, man.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, are we ever going to be able to come together? Or are we just stuck in this cycle of anger and division?
I don't know. It's a tough question.
It feels like everyone is so entrenched in their own beliefs that they're not even willing to listen to the other side.
Yeah. It's like we've lost the ability to disagree respectfully.
And that's scary.
It is. It really is.
Because at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We need to find a way to bridge this gap or we're going to tear ourselves apart.
I agree. We need to start focusing on what unites us instead of what divides us.
Easier said than done, though, right?
It won't be easy, that's for sure. But I think it starts with each individual making an effort to be more understanding and compassionate.
Maybe this whole garbage thing will be a wake-up call. Maybe it'll force people to take a step back and realize how damaging this kind of rhetoric can be.
I hope so. But ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide how we want to move forward.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want listeners to remember?
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Right.
Do your own research. Don't just blindly believe everything you hear on the news or social media.
Garbage.
Think for yourself.
Exactly. And then when it's time to vote, make an informed decision based on your own values and beliefs.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
And remember, no matter who wins or loses, we're all in this together.
We need to find a way to heal these divisions and come together as a nation.
Because if we don't, the future looks pretty bleak.
That's the truth. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap things up for today.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon with more news and analysis. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged.